Welcome to my talk, Outpace Reality, a novel augmented walking technique for virtual reality games. When I play VR games, I'm a fan of using real walking for locomotion. When I can walk through the virtual world by myself, it feels the most realistic and tangible to me. But of course, there's a catch. No matter how big my room is, it's not enough. Longer distances like walking down a street are impossible. And even if we had enough room, walking across an entire virtual world could be quite tedious. Now, wouldn't it be cool to boost the movements in VR, so we could cover a much greater distance with every step? For example, walking 2 meters could then translate to maybe 60 meters in the virtual world. Of course, this is not a new concept. But even though scaled walking sounds like a good idea, there's a whole list of reasons why it's not widely used yet. The main issue is cybersickness. In particular, high boost factors often cause discomfort because they increase the visual flow in the player's view. And that's why most papers only use boost factors between 3 and 10. This form the concept is almost useless. We would still run out of space in no time. Another issue is the decreased accuracy. When traveling in such high velocities, it becomes challenging to navigate precisely. So players quickly get frustrated. And lastly, the concept also suffers from poor usability. Before they start walking, players cannot foresee how the boost will affect their movements. For example, players could think the boost is deactivated, and then are confused when it's not. These issues, cybersickness, accuracy, and usability, make scaled walking a very poor choice for locomotion. To change this, we developed a new approach. But first, we introduced 2 limiting constraints. We focus only on traveling along straight paths and only to fixed targets that were set beforehand. I'll come back to these limitations to the end of my talk. But for now, let's start assembling our concept. First, we add a tunnel between the player and the target. This tunnel boosts the player's speed as they walk through it. With this design, we solve 2 issues. Players don't need to worry about accuracy, as the boost only applies in the tunnel's direction. And also walking outside the tunnel remains unchanged, so it's always clear where the acceleration kicks in. Next, let's tackle cybersickness. Therefore, we have to make things a bit more complicated. In the tunnel, we add a short inlay that moves with the player. And then, with the help of 2 portals at the ends, we create an optical illusion. To better understand what we achieve with this construct, let's look at the effect on the player. When our target is 60 meters away, then from the outside, the tunnel spans a complete 60 meters. But this distance appears much shorter when we look through the tunnel. In fact, with a boost factor of 30, the interior shrinks to just 2 meters. So ultimately, players have the feeling they just traverse this short distance, but still end up at their target position. With this step, we now align the visual flow to the actual movements. So this should prevent cybersickness. But we're not done yet. In fact, we've even gone a bit too far. Now players can't see how fast they actually travel. To change this, we add windows in the tunnel's walls. These reveal the actual fast walking speed. So, let's look at our complete concept in practice. As we see, the player stands at the start point and initiates the tunnel. It appears with a short animation to show where the tunnel will take the player. Next, we see the optical illusion in practice. And as the player walks through the tunnel, we see the boosted movements through the side windows. Finally, the tunnel disappears again. So, altogether, we now have a concept that safely boosts walking speed, hopefully without negative side effects in cybersickness, accuracy and usability. To confirm this, we compared our concept against a teleport. Therefore, we conducted a within-subject study with 25 participants. In our game, players traveled along a path to 7 spots and performed local tasks. With the teleport, they could always switch between walking and teleporting. In contrast, our tunnel was only used for traveling to the next spot, and players used wheel walking for local navigation. So, let's look at our most important results. Of course, our main concern was cybersickness. After all, prior research already measured symptoms below a boost factor of 10. So it's relieving to see that our tunnel with a boost factor of 30 generally did not cause cybersickness. Next, we looked at how both concepts performed. We noticed that players often overused the teleport. Even though they could easily reach an object by walking, they just teleported there. Of course, this was not possible with a tunnel. As a result, players walked 28% more. And even though they had to physically walk from one spot to the next, the travel time for both conditions was almost identical. Lastly, our analysis of the peak's I subscale shows that players rated the tunnel as significantly easier to control. This is surprising since the teleport is one of the simplest locomotion concepts. But players must still learn this dedicated point and click interaction. In contrast, the tunnel just uses plain walking. Especially beginners found this more accessible. Now, in the beginning I mentioned 2 constraints of our technique. First, players can only travel along straight lines. Of course, we could simply subdivide complex paths into several pieces. But still, we plan to extend our concept to curved tunnels to increase its applicability. And second, the tunnels only connect at fixed points. Such orchestrated travels are often used in linear games. But for free navigation, we must add a method for choosing the next waypoint. For example, players could choose the target on a map before the tunnel appears. In our paper, we discuss these and other design implications in more detail. But for now, I thank you for listening and look forward to answering your questions.